forgiveness. The reaper is rising, and you're on the checklist. You can run, but you cannot hide. Your ending was closer, and death is on your side. Your decision, your life, has made it hard for you to survive. Count the chick hands, accept the losses. You are the reason for the nails in your coffin. Shame, shame, I know your name.
Finally, after 6 months of silence, Paul Stanley, semi-silence, Paul Stanley finally did an interview, and it's a pretty good one, and we're going to talk about it today on Podcast Rock City Live. What's up, everybody? Joe here from Podcast Rock City, and with me this week, Sunny Hollywood Pooney.
What's up, people? It's not even July yet. It's Christmas in June because Joey ain't here.
Oh, damn.
It's the best day ever.
So evil to each other. And right down there is the lovely and talented, the goddess of thunder herself, Lee. Hi, Lee.
Hi, everybody.
I love your shirt. I love that.
you.
I love that play, and I love the movie. Yeah.
Yes.
You
gotta love the dental scene, of course.
Every time I check my blood sugar, I always think of it. Like I want to go, and I'm on. And let me tell you, I could feed that thing because I'm on blood thinners.
Yeah, you'd be feeding them. Steam.
One look.
Audrey, I mean.
I could probably drown that thing. You could buy the okay, anyway. All right, because people are gonna be like, what is this? What kind of a podcast is supposed to be Kiss? You're talking
whatever
about
we want it to be, everybody.
Yeah. Anyway, it's so good to see you guys that are watching. Hi, how are you? I hope you had a great week. I was in Florida. My girlfriend's daughter, Karen's daughter, Kenzie, graduated from Full Sail with her degree in computer animation. So she's watching right now, if you're catching my drift, and we'll see what happens.
Does that mean I got to watch my language now?
Hell no.
Oh, good.
She's fucking heard me swear before.
Okay, there it goes.
And then she usually goes,
Real
Joe
nice.
said a bad word. She's 20. Anyway, so the show might be changing a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. No pressure. So I was in Florida, man. I went to Hulk Hogan's wrestling shop down there. I got a Thunder Lips t-shirt. It's so awesome.
Oh.
And then I got a coffee mug. They had a lot of Hulk Hogan stuff, of course Thunder Lips is Hulk Hogan, but for some reason I was really drawn to the Thunder Lips stuff from Rocky 3, when they have that charity thing so I got a coffee mug and I got my hat and I got I already said a t-shirt.
Does he actually own the store?
It's his store, and
It's his
apparently
store.
he does.
Okay.
He'll show up every once in a while and do signings and stuff like
cool.
that.
Oh, he's still alive?
Oh, have
Come
mercy,
on,
Sonny.
Shit, I thought he died a while back.
Hogan, yeah.
Please.
Come on,
He's one of the fine. Like I need to meet him. He was one of my heroes when I was a little boy, and I still haven't had the opportunity to.
He's on your list.
He's on my list. I want
Keep
to.
an eye out for you.
Yes, I know that. Okay. Anyway. That all being said, I had a great weekend. Lee, did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was all right. I didn't do much.
Just chill?
Just chilled, not much. Nothing exciting to report.
Sometimes that's good. Sonny, what about you?
I had a pretty chill week because I got some crazy weeks coming up. So,
Hmm.
yeah, pretty chill week this week.
Joe, are you going
Yeah.
to see Kevin Smith Thursday night?
It's this Thursday.
Yep.
I wasn't aware. I no, I'm not going. Is it like a comedy show? Is that what he's
It's an
doing?
evening with Kevin Smith.
I'm saving my money because Fanboy is next month. Remember
Oh,
we saw each
Knoxville?
other
Yeah, I'm
in
going. I'll
Knoxville.
be there.
I want to meet 3 of the actors from the greatest movies of all time. Grease 2 will be there, and Adrian's Med will be there, and the guy that played Michael, the main character, will be there, who's also, I think, Rex. Remember the movie Empire Records? You guys have seen
Oh,
Empire
yeah.
Records?
Wow.
Yeah.
He's the guy that comes in, the rock star guy,
Mhm.
and then the guy that played Shooter McGavin.
Oh,
He
Yep.
was
Shooter.
in Shooter.
Shooter.
I haven't even looked at the guest list. That sounds
Shoot.
good.
Yeah. Adam Savage is going to be there from the Mythbusters. I loved that show. I've always dreamt of meeting Adam. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a lot
My
of fun.
dreams look different.
Well, okay, so different levels of dreams, right? Like when I was a kid, the top dream I would have been marrying Christy Brinkley. But it later became Elle Macpherson, and you know what I mean? So it changes all the time. I know, Scherzinger, that's your girl, right?
Yeah, those other two aren't even on my list.
Oh, dang.
Well, I dreamt
Oh,
of marrying David Cassidy.
Oh, yeah.
He was my first love.
He was pretty handsome. He was a
He was
handsome guy,
handsome.
sang
He's
pretty well.
Partridge.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that there was not really a whole lot of announcements. But as far as news goes, I didn't really see anything. I was curious about the Dynasty stuff that came out. The last time I went on, which was a few days ago, everything wasn't sold out. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Let's go ahead and get to the news.
Podcast Rock City News.
So, the Dynasty packages that came out, right? I was looking at them and I started thinking about something, Sonny, and maybe you could help me here. You know, when these companies put out these, like any company could do it. Let's say they put out a reissue of Master of Puppets, right? Is there now? If you notice, this one was different than the last few. The last few was you could buy the record or the CD, and then all this other stuff wasn't packaged together, right? It was separate. Or you could buy a package, if that makes sense. Now, I didn't see anything where you could just buy a record. Is it possible, Sonny, that they are now doing this on purpose, where they go, we got a better deal on putting it all together as a package for sales as opposed to one item, pick and shoot. What do they call that? A la carte?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if something's going to get shipped to you, right? Because I'm in the shipping business now. It is better if you just buy a package versus buy it a la carte. There's also is a possibility that it's like, you know what? We're sick of getting stuck with 13 shirts, 6 albums, 55 flags, 86 women's tees, and 13 bottle caps. We need to just package it so that way we don't have like this weird, because nobody's going to buy the weird stuff. The weird stuff ends up in the abyss because nobody wants it probably, right? So that's the problem with a la carte is you end up having an uneven amount. And then what do? You got to clearance it. Well, then you just threw money away.
Right.
But
But
now,
this happens
most likely,
to everybody, though. This happens to every company. I mean, even Disney in Florida has 2 big stores that you go into, and right now you could buy all the Christmas stuff that did not sell on sale. I mean, and there's people, from my understanding, the line is around the corner and they gotta, because
There's a
people
difference
want
there,
this.
though. They have a
Okay.
store. So what we do is if we have clearance stuff, we send it to a store. You walk in to buy it, you leave with it. There's no shipping cost. But if I got to send bottle caps all over the world because that's all I got left, all I'm doing is paying shipping cost. All I'm doing is making UPS and FedEx rich, which
Oh,
doesn't
that's a
make
good
any
point.
sense for anybody. My guess is somebody did some research and said, you know what? When Lee buys a record, she buys a shirt, a flag, and socks. Just package it together. She won't be upset. Don't worry.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
Maybe I
why
just want
Poonie's
the
here.
socks.
Right.
Well, the
So,
socks, but if you notice, there are certain things that are lower dollar items that are
Yeah.
separate, whether it's the belt buckles and the kiss ring and stuff like that for $20, you can get. Lee, Lee, you're like me. You like a la carte, though. You don't want to be,
I do. I don't want to be, I don't have to buy a whole package just to get the socks,
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Like if everybody in the world loved McDonald's fries, and McDonald's knew that, their best business venture is the only way you can get fries is you got to buy a Big Mac. You can't just buy the fries.
Right. Yeah, I mean, shoot, that's true. It makes sense to package it all together. But everybody knows that McDonald's makes most of their money on what, Sonny?
Soda.
Coffee and soda.
Coffee and
Yes,
soda.
the coffee.
Yeah.
You don't buy a soda, it crushes everybody in that building. Every time you go get fast food, don't get a soda. Trust me, you are absolutely killing them.
Okay, so this was interesting. My thing about the packages that are coming out right now is I have to watch, everybody pretty much is watching what they spend their money on right now, but seeing these packages put together, the good thing is other than the music on the record, right? It's mostly stuff we don't have, whether it's the fancy t-shirt or the scarf put together with the belt buckle and the socks, it's the stuff we don't have. And they're at least making the records look different, picture disc wise or whatever that, so at least if you're getting that, it's still different. It's not just a black vinyl record that you have 6 copies of already, because you had the German version, the American version, and then 4 versions that you
Joe.
found. Yeah. But so I get it. I get both sides, but they still, like I said, they still have some stuff that are separate, and then they still have these packages. If you want to get how about this though? Do you think it's possible that they sold it that way because they have so many people buying 10 copies of the record and then selling them online? Does that make sense, Sonny?
That curbs that too, because now you got to buy 10 packages. And these guys don't want to buy those packages because they can't sell the bottle caps, the socks, and blah, blah, blah. So they're not going to do that. Right?
I know that you guys are all sitting there right now going, why
Sonny bottle caps? Yeah.
Bringing up bottle caps. Go ahead, Sonny. Cap. Tell them why. Tell them why.
Because if you are connected to Gene Simmons' website, they sent out an email this week that you can buy 20 uncirculated bottle caps for $10. And the minute I saw that, I'm just like, God, Gene could make money through rain somehow. Like the guy, I don't understand who's going to buy the bottle caps. But I think everybody listening is going to end up with bottle caps somehow.
So let me tell you what this reminds me of. Not on the same level, because the story I'm about to tell is kind of gross, but it's not the same. Okay. So I remember when I was younger, here's a shocker. I was a smoker, and I smoked for like 10 or 11 years. And then when I found out Jace was going to be born, I quit. But before that, I was sitting somewhere, and I don't know if what this guy told me was true at all. I don't know if what he told me was true at all. This is just what he said. I had a good, nice brand of cigarettes. They were kind of expensive. And he said, "Oh, you smoked the stuff that hasn't been on the floor." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, when they're making cigarettes, tobacco falls on the ground. They sweep it up and put it in another machine, and that's the cheap cigarettes. They, but you could be getting bugs in there and everything else, and it's cheap, so it's
Same with
not
hot dogs,
exactly the
bro.
same, but it's like they're sitting there going, "Oh, we got 6,000 bottle caps laying around and only 4,000 bottles. Let's just package them together and call them
Joe,
uncirculated."
what were you smoking? Like Benson Hedges instead of Camel no filters, or what?
No. I smoked something called Camel Special Lights.
Oh, good
Boy.
Lord.
They were good cigarettes. But not but they weren't the ones that you could walk in and pay 99 cents and get a carton,
That's that red shit. What was that stuff called? It was like in a red packet. I don't remember what it
Marlboro?
was called.
No,
No,
Marlboro
no,
was
no,
a good
no.
brand, I think. And Marlboro
no.
was a good brand, I
Marlboro.
think.
Anyway, going back to the Dynasty thing, there's only one thing I'm looking for, and every time the Dynasty thing comes out, it never comes out with it. I want like 8x10s and posters of the Straight Jacket pictures.
No.
Isn't that era?
Yes.
Dynasty,
How
yes.
come those don't ever come out? Like, does somebody own them or something?
The alternate poses.
That's a good question. I can tell you this. I know that there's a separate cover that's like, I don't know if it's the accidental cover where you could, if you look at the regular Dynasty cover, they're all black. But if you look at this one separate cover that like is supposedly a mistake or something, you actually could see a little bit of the white from the Straight Jackets on the vinyl. Of course, it's expensive to buy because the collectors want it. But I understand what you're talking about because there are like, okay, right here on my wall, right here, Peter, Paul, Ace, Gene, all separate posters and their Dynasty pictures.
Mhm.
They are the outtakes. Sonny, that might be where they are, man. The outtakes. These are the pictures from the Viewmaster,
Oh, boy.
which was Dynasty era. Some of it's live, some of it's they're in the studio. I can tell you that if I'm not mistaken, and I probably am, so you don't have to send me a letter to podcastrockcity1
That's the number one.
at gmail.com. Nobody does that better than I do. You guys are the best. But they were they were 3D. The little pictures inside, they were 3D. So Peter has his drumsticks out, and in between the sticks was his name, his autograph, Peter Criss. Paul has his hand up, and I don't remember if this is the exact picture. Either he had one finger up or his hand up, like in this picture, and then there was this like triangle around him. That was 3D. The Ace, he's got his finger out, and no, the Ace with the autograph, he has both his fingers out, and there's lightning bolts coming out of his fingers, and it says Ace Frehley, I believe. And Gene, I think, was an outtake where he's holding the axe like right near his face, and he's making a Gene face, and it says Gene Simmons, I think, like coming off of the base. Now, don't be sitting there at home going, "Dummy Joe, that's all wrong." I haven't looked at the Viewmaster in a long time. When I get done, I'm going to go look at it and be like, "Screw me." I'm going to get letters, But so maybe that's where they are. I will tell you that we had a KISS convention here years ago, 20 years ago, and they had all of the pictures of them with their names on 8x10s, glossy, and it was 2D, of course. It wasn't 3D or but I've never been able to find those again. Somebody watching right now is going, "I'm sending Pooney these pictures. He could just print them out."
Yeah, it's the straight, because Van Halen did a Straight Jacket picture for one of the singles in the Sammy era. So I have that
remember.
one, right? So I have that. I actually have the single because the only way I could ever find the picture was by the vinyl 45. right? It would be awesome to have like a vinyl 45 of I Was Made for Loving You or whatever in straight jacket, so I could like
Put them
frame
together.
them together. You know what I mean? The
Sure.
straight jacket pictures have just eluded me over time. It's one of the few things I've wanted, and it's eluded me over time.
That's so interesting. Steve Gill wants to know where I got this hoodie. Kiss Online, dude. They
$95.
yeah, I think it was like 60, something
My
like that.
my
But
Demon
yeah.
Wing has been shipped. Demon Wing hoodie.
Oh, so it's a hoodie that you go like this?
It was a pre-order. Yeah, it's been shipped. Woohoo!
Today was the first time where I noticed in the picture of you breathing fire that he autographed the inside
did.
of your wing. Is that
Yep.
when you met him for VH1?
No, that was when I met with the tribute band. We went to see them up in Cincinnati, and we got to go backstage.
Oh,
And,
that's cool.
I have a picture with them. But he asked me where I got my costume. Where did you get your costume? And I said, I made it. You know, I don't know if he was trying to find out, whatever. But then he grabbed my wing and signed it. Like I didn't even ask him. Like he's just,
Wow, that's really kind of cool.
I know.
Yeah,
very
I
cool.
didn't notice that. Anyway, I can't believe I never noticed it before. Today it was on my news screen and it was nice and big. And I was like, holy crap. Anyway, hey, all you guys that are watching, thank you very much for being here. Don't forget that we have a Patreon. And we post stuff every week. So if you want to go and check it out, it's free for a week. It doesn't cost you anything to try it out. And check out all the stuff that we've posted on there. And you also get an extra episode. As soon as we're done here today, we'll go and we'll record an extra episode. It's usually about 20 or so minutes, sometimes longer. We post it on there, and only if you're on Patreon do you get to see that. Sometimes we get into conversations that start off Kiss and they just wander, and that's fun because it's just different. Anyway, thank you guys for talking about the news with me. Now let's go ahead and get to the topic of the week.
Podcast Rock City Topic of the Week.
I was sent on a mission. Life is the goal.
This is the bag that my Hulk stuff.
Nice.
Hulk still rules.
Still rules. Do you
I'll
know
tell
when
you,
he's gonna be there? Like, could you plan a trip when he's, or does he just show up when he feels?
No, they plan it ahead of time. You know, I have a title belt signed by all my heroes from all from when I was a little
Oh,
boy.
you need to go when he's there.
Yeah, but he's gonna be in I think it's Clearwater. I think is where he has a one store. He's there, I guess, this weekend coming up, next weekend.
Oh,
And
man.
then and I was there I was out at that area. Anyway, it's okay.
You'll get him.
Paul Stanley did an interview. Sonny sent us the post. What was the lady's name? Allison.
It was the same lady that did the
Lady.
hosting on the
The last show.
the live
pay-per-view.
stream. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I thought her interview was good. She was very friendly. She asked of course, she asked the questions that they weren't necessarily, the same kind of question. The only one that I heard, that it wasn't even really a question. They discussed the logo,
Mhm.
Sonny, you sent us this interview, and you basically, I'm going to quote what you said. You said, Paul knocks this interview out of the park. You still feel that way?
Still feel that way. I watched it again today. And today I figured out why I felt that way. It was the first time you kind of feel like you're seeing Paul out of character.
Hmm.
Like he's at peace. Kiss is over. And there's no like kissisms. Remember that? You know what I'm talking about, right? That weird shit that Gene and Paul must practice somewhere. And then if somebody asks a certain question, that stupid kissism comes out, right? Like, whatever that, I don't know. But I forgot what all those kissisms were because they were all so stupid. he just seemed like he was talking from the heart,
Hmm.
and he didn't answer all the questions great, right? Like that question about, so tell me what you like most about Gene. He had a hell of a hard time coming up with an answer. And
I
this
thought
is the
that was
closest
really
friend he's
interesting.
got.
Yeah,
Right?
I thought
So,
that was interesting. The whole. Okay, so Leah, you watched it. I saw you posted on our thread that it was really good.
Mhm.
One of the things is it was really all over the place. Of course, it started with Kiss and the final show, and Sonny, he mentioned that revealing the avatars was a double-edged sword. Why did he say that?
well, I think his thing, I don't know about the other edge, but the edge that he was talking about more is they're going to look better than they do.
Yeah, they
Right.
weren't done
This
yet.
was
So,
not exactly
They
what
weren't
you're
done
going.
yet
This
at
is not
all.
what you're going to get.
so what I got out of that was he's not happy with his avatar. That's what I got out of that.
His particular.
And when I look at the 4, his doesn't look that great. So I wouldn't be happy with it either if I was him.
Right.
Right? It's like, we need to thin that guy up and stretch the face a little and put some in his face or something. He looks too chubby. Right? So
I think that I kind of felt like maybe he was going, maybe he felt like this is something that we had to do. We had to let fans know that we weren't, how they did it, that's another show or 5 shows,
but I don't think he was talking anything about that. If you're thinking that was a half-hearted apology about maybe we should have done blah blah, that's not what that's about.
that was not what
What
that
that's
was.
about
That was
is we didn't have a choice to show it, and it wasn't ready to be shown. That's what
Is
I
it
heard.
possible that he, of course, knows that that some people are like going,
Heard us
I don't really
complaining.
like it. I
Heard
don't really
people
like it.
complaining.
And it was him like sitting there going reassuring,
Mhm.
this is like the technology. He kept mentioning that the technology changes every day. Even that they were mentioning the ABBA stuff. Is it ABBA or ABBA? Lee, which is it?
I always said ABBA, but I'm not
ABBA?
100%
Okay,
sure.
I always feel like an idiot. ABBA. So he even said that the ABBA stuff was outdated already, and he said that that's sold out for 3 years still. So you want a ticket to that, forget it. It's 3 years sold out. I so and that technology is outdated. So he mentioned
Not
that
only that, but he
time.
also went out of his way to say it ain't just going to be us live in concert. Like it's going to
Right.
be like an experience.
Right.
So I think what I got from that was they're trying to shoot somewhere between what ABBA's doing and like the Pink Floyd experience things that people go to, and throw in the cartoon of the Marvel somehow, right? Like
Right.
that they can do something that these other people can't do because they never had a comic book character. They never had face painting.
That's right.
And you can't just do what Dio's trying to do. That's not working. That's not gonna work. Right? So
Right.
I thought it was very interesting that he was very specific in saying that.
I liked
May-
the Dio hologram. Wait a minute.
No. I don't think that's what he's saying. It's not going to appeal to the masses, though. That'll appeal to the Dio fan,
Right.
which you
Sure.
are, and it
I
makes
understand.
100% sense. But I think that one of the other things that I noticed was how he made sure to name drop George Lucas.
Yeah.
Because our generation, even though Sonny is not a Star Wars fan, he still is very aware of who George Lucas is. I mean, he's aware of who Indiana Jones is, and that's George Lucas. So, and so dropping that name, I believe, helps older fans go, there's a name I semi-trust. You know what I mean? A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Those are a lot of kids our age childhood.
Mhm.
And, finding out that, it's just like if we had a new Kiss record coming out and we found out the person that we loved the most was producing it. you'd sit back and go, okay, I feel like they're in pretty good hands, right? And mentioning George Lucas it's not like George Lucas is sitting at home going, I think his tongue needs to be a little longer. No, it's his company, right? Right, Lee?
I guess.
Industrial Light and Magic, I think,
I'm
is the
sitting here
company.
reading these comments. I'm sorry.
Are
Wonder
we
if anyone will notice if I type "kiss sucks." Yes, we noticed. Are you
Yeah.
happy?
Yes, we notice. It's anyway. Okay, so that was really interesting. He also talked about his family a bit. He did talk about his father and how his father lived to be 101, I believe, and
Yeah, something
and
crazy.
yeah, and basically what he said was, your body is what breaks down. He said if you could take my dad's head off and stick it on another body,
Right.
he'd have been fine because his brain was, he didn't lose anything, and anyway, so he mentions the whole riding a bike for 25 miles and all that stuff. They talked about that, and how she was really on the whole you're inspirational thing, which I thought was interesting. I didn't really think it was going to go that way.
Yeah, she is. God, this is going to sound bad, but she's a vanilla interviewer, right? She's not Howard Stern. That's not who she's trying to be.
Brutal.
And she's trying to be the person that every celebrity feels comfortable coming to, because she's going to, make me feel good, pump me up, and not ask me a bunch of questions that are negative, right? So, she's doing what she does, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody can be Howard Stern or be a pain in the ass either way. I thought he was like, he did do the eye thing, right? So it was like, was the band everything to you? Well, it certainly was for me, right? So he definitely wasn't going to say that it was for Gene, right? So he kind of did that on purpose. But then he said later, but I'm no picnic sometimes. Right? Gene can be tough, but I'm no picnic sometimes.
Yep.
Right? So that's the part that you didn't hear before.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
he
saying
never
that
takes a shot at himself.
Admitting
and not only that, saying that, admitting that Gene doesn't have an issue with saying when he's wrong.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, when she asked him, what's your favorite thing about Gene, right?
Yeah, that's what he said, is that he doesn't have an issue admitting he's wrong. Which, that's... You could have said that a better way, right? Like, he doesn't get stuck on his own opinions. He listens, and if he's wrong, he's willing to negotiate, right? You don't got to make it sound like it's always right, wrong, but that's just part of who Paul is. Because, like, when she asked the logo question, he could easily said, yeah, the logo is what it is because of me. Went out of his way to say Ace designed it.
Right.
And I perfected it.
Because everybody knows that, so you can't be lying.
Yeah. But that's not stopped. Not that he's lied before, but it's not stopped him from taking credit before.
Right.
Right. But she didn't ask any Ace and Peter questions. And whether she was told not to ask them, and if she's told not to ask them, she's not going to ask them anyway. And if she's not told to ask them, she doesn't have the personality to ask questions that are going to be, just possibly negative answers, right? So it's like, forget it. I'm not going there. That's just not who she is.
Yeah. One of the things that, one of the things that was interesting to me was, they did talk about certain things. They did talk about selling the intellectual property. They didn't go too deep into that. They talked about the logo, which we all know the story, but once again, that interview wasn't necessarily, it was partially for us and then partially for people who aren't KISS fans to learn a little bit about Paul Stanley. That was the only time any other member got mentioned. Ace got mentioned, where he said Ace designed the logo.
Perfected it.
Perfected it.
Perfected.
And then when they asked me if they wanted the second S perfected, I said, nah, leave it.
A little off. You can see it.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's a little off. He said it got us this far, which
Yeah.
we've heard him say before, but
Yeah.
but still, he threw Ace a bone, although it had shards on it and was interesting. At least
He
that's
wasn't-
the way it felt.
The old Paul wasn't completely gone, because here's the one thing that I thought was very old Paul. If he hadn't said so, we would have no idea how much art he sold. Right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know if that number is $1 million
Yep.
worth. You wouldn't know if that's $1 billion worth, or if it's 10 cents. You have no clue. He went out of his way to say $27 million.
Right, right. Yeah. I caught that too. It was pretty interesting. I will tell you that, I mean, he did seem, like you said, he did seem really kind of chill. He did seem relaxed. One of the things about Paul interviews that always always amazed me is because he's not the star child when he's doing interviews. He's Paul Stanley, and he's very calm, and he talks chill, and okay, on questions that when they get asked, there are questions that we have all heard where we went, well, we know exactly what he's going to say. This one had a few where we did not know. I recommend you guys go and see this. I'll post the link on our Facebook page if you haven't already seen it. But I just think that he was, like you said, he seemed really relaxed and calm. He talked about his family a whole bunch. He talked about his family. He talked about his wife. How she holds the fort together, and he participates, of course, which I never really heard him go out of his way to really talk about the family like that much. It's come up, and I don't think anybody's really asked. They did bring up the fact that Evan's band opened for the last couple of shows.
Yep.
Lee, when he said that he went to them and saw them live or in rehearsals, maybe it was live, and said,
Rehearsals, I think.
Told them you need more
Rehearsals.
work.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, you guys aren't ready.
They did. They put in the work. That's what he said. It's not just because it's my son that helps, but they did the work. That's what he said.
Yeah, he talked about nepotism. Is it nepotism?
Nepotism.
Yeah.
Nepotism, and of course, but he also mentioned, opening the door for a family member isn't. I don't see what the big deal is personally. I would have liked other bands to have opened, but it wasn't like they were terrible. They were a good band.
Well,
it was rocking.
Family of celebrities get certain opportunities people don't get.
Sure.
Yeah, but I thought, okay, so how he talked about nepotism, I've been hearing that, nepotism my whole life, right? So I have not heard it the way he said it, which I will never forget it because it's so true. He's like, I can open doors, but somebody can just shut them.
True. Yeah.
Right? Like all I can do is open the door. I can't do anything else besides that. So I've never heard it that way. Because
unless you're opening for my band, then I can do what I want.
Yeah, but you think about like celebrity, the actors, and then their kids, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking that because one of the Baldwins is an actor, the next Baldwin just automatically gets to be an actor because they're related to the Baldwins. But what's probably more true is it opens the door. People, I can connect you to the right people, but you still can't suck. You suck.
Right.
They close the door and you don't do it anymore.
Right.
Put up that other comment from Mark Edwards there, please. Okay, so this is interesting here. So everybody, of course, is going to see this interview that sees it and get different things from it. So Mark thought it was kind of a generic interview, and she acted like Paul was a deity as she spoke to him. Now, I will tell you that I felt it was a little different than what I was used to seeing. However, I did catch on. She was a little giddy. I
Yeah.
would have been the same way. If any of us were interviewing Paul Stanley, we would have been giddy that we were interviewing Paul Stanley, and I get that.
She's wearing a Kiss dress. She's a Homer too.
Yeah. I did catch on to that.
That's the dress she wore at the concert.
That's right.
At the concert, right there. Hey, can you put up Nick's comment, please, at the bottom there? Allison did bring up his throat surgery, and Paul spoke about how he doesn't sing like he did years ago. He also brought up Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi's been it's a very public thing. What's going on with Bon Jovi, because it's like a documentary, right?
Put it out there, on a documentary.
But did you hear him give props to somebody? So before I say it, just in case you didn't know it. So normally when he's giving props to other singers, he goes to Aretha Franklin, right? He goes to like people that are not even in competition with him, right? Because they're doing Smokey Robinson and all those folks that he couldn't hold a candle to because they do a different style of singing. He gave props to Bruce Dickinson. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
I had to rewind and watch it again. I'm like, did he just say something nice about Bruce?
Well, basically, what he said was, everybody can't be Bruce Dickinson. Basically, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Except for somebody like Bruce Dickinson, people their vocal cords age and they, get older and, they can't sing like they used to. And
that's interesting because Bruce has aged and Bruce has had throat problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He did mention that, and I remember I was driving back from Florida, and I remember actually kind of being shocked that was the person he mentioned. Like, out of all the, the singers in the world, Bruce Dickinson came up, which was
Bruce is still out there killing it.
Pretty interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, he is. I mean, I wish they were coming to our area. They're not, I know that they were I guess they just finished a tour or something like that.
Yeah.
But what else in the interview, Lee, was there anything that you were interested in and like that made you go, oh, I never heard him talk about this?
I mean, not really, but just the avatars, saying they weren't ready yet or whatever he was saying. I almost felt like there was an excuse, but it's okay.
Well, I mean, I do recognize that it's not something that's going to happen, overnight.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, because obviously we've talked about the avatars till we're blue in the face. Now we're just in a waiting pattern to see what Pop House is going to do. What's Pop House's plans? So he talked about his kids a lot when it came time for, basically what he was saying was, in the end, at the end of Kiss, like the thing he was most proud of is the fact that his family.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It wasn't like, he could have gone in a bunch of different directions. It could have been like, I was proud of this or I was proud of that. It's like I've worked, my whole life. This is the family that it's a large family too. He has like 4 kids, I think, a couple girls and a couple boys, I think. And, but it might be 3 girls and 2 boys. Anyway, I always found it interesting that both the boys have like really curly hair. Like really curly hair. And I didn't see that in it obviously is coming from Paul's genes because the youngest son isn't, with the first wife, but they both have the same curly hair. And I was like, I don't remember ever seeing a picture of Paul Stanley with curly hair like that. It was pretty funny, but he does really seem like and I hate to be this way because somebody's going to send me an email, go, famous people always portray themselves differently when the camera's on, and I get that. I get
So
that.
do non-famous people, by the way.
No, that's a good
At
point.
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a
everybody
good
does.
point.
But Lee, I got a question for you. So that interview was, I think, 30 to 45 minutes, right?
Mhm.
He almost looks like he's done with music. He didn't really talk about Kiss music. He
Mhm.
hadn't picked up a guitar in 6 months. He didn't
Yep.
talk about Soul Station. He could have easily said, Gene's out there playing. I'm going to be out there playing in 4 or 5 months. Almost as if he is done.
He
You're
did
right.
mention Soul Station, but I don't think he mentioned it by name.
No.
He seems more into his art and things now, and it's
And
might be just
family.
his time of life and his family. Like
Yeah.
he's done Kiss for 50 years. Let the man
Yeah.
do his art and be with his family.
Yeah.
So we were
Um,
talking about it before we went on the air, but imagine this. So he puts his guitar down. He had probably at that point, I'm not touching that thing for 6 months.
And he did.
Right at that point, he's
Yep.
just like, I'm not good, right? And then here comes Gene 2 weeks later. Hey, I'm
2
thinking about
weeks.
playing in Brazil, right? Can you imagine what
can't
Paul
handle
be
it.
like? What the fuck? Seriously, dude, just
Gene-
stay home.
Gene cannot. He has to be out there. That's just
Yeah.
part of Gene.
Yeah,
yeah, he was like, if everybody, and he also talked about how everybody has the choice of either listening or not listening. If you're wanting to hear the way Paul sounded in 1975, he said, go listen to Kiss Alive. He said, if you want to hear how we sounded at this point, go listen to that,
Yeah.
and
True.
it's true. Yeah, it's true. Nick put Nick's
Everybody
comment
ages.
there. I like how his kids don't act entitled because they are not entitled. My own parents did very, very well for themselves, but I work for all I have. So I like Paul's attitude.
Hmm.
I not to go back to George Lucas, but I saw an interview one time where he said pretty much the same thing, which was I have to remind my kids all the time that the money I have is my money. He goes, their job at the time, this is years ago. At the time, I guess his kids were younger. He's like, right now their jobs are going to college and learning
Mhm.
this, and that's what I pay them to do, which basically he's saying, I'm paying for college, I'm paying for this, for their room and board or whatever,
Right.
but I kind of got and I'm sure Paul Stanley is not going to be the type of person to die and not leave his family protected, taken care of.
Obviously, when he dies, yeah.
Yeah. But it is one of those things where it's kind of cool to see, parents that at least portraying the thing going, I'm here as the safety net. I had a discussion with my son today where I told him he wanted basically a gap year between high school and like a college or something. And I told him, he graduated at 17. Okay. So he would love to be an actor or get into acting in some way. And I told him, when I was your age, I had dreams and I did none of them.
Oh.
None of them. And I wanted to make sure that even if he were to try these, even if he were to try to become an actor, let's say till he's 21, that's not too late to do something
No,
else.
not at all.
He's only 21 years old. So I when he was talking about that was when I was like, I had this conversation with my son before, but I really wanted to do it again after I saw that, where he was talking about, I opened the door for my son, but anything after he walks through that door, he's got to earn, and that's pretty interesting. So Sonny, you said something that kind of caught my attention. You do you really think there's a chance he's like done with music, or like it's not top priority?
I would say it's not top priority, and if he never had to do it again, I think he'd be just fine. He's got enough stuff going on, and he's at the age where I think he's coming to realize, why would he want to be back in a bus going and doing this Soul Station shit?
Right. Enough's
Like,
enough.
why would you want to do that? Right?
Right.
And now
Yeah.
you're doing it with people you haven't done it with the last 20 years. So now you got new people, got different habits, got stupid shit. People, not that they show up late because they'll just get fired or whatever, but it's like you're going to have to cultivate these new relationships, trying to figure out how to be on the road. It's 70 plus year old. That
He's probably
just
just
sounds
sick of it.
absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
No,
And
yeah.
you don't have to. And to what? So the homers can say it didn't sound like I did in 75?
Where Gene's
Yeah.
the opposite. He's out there 2 seconds later.
Yeah. So it's just, I think when it's coming down to it, if I was him, I would just be done. And if I wanted to be involved in music, just go songwrite for folks.
Yeah.
This comment right here, many times having famous parents can work against the children. Imagine how Evan always will be compared against his father.
Yep.
One of the things that I did find was interesting, and I've heard Paul do this a few times where he bragged on Evan's a good player. I teach guitar for a living. I'm a guitar player. Evan's a good guitar player.
He put on a good show too.
Yeah, he put it on. He is definitely a rock star's child.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He's grown up around it. He's watched his father. He has his own moves as a few where when you watch it, you go, that's totally his father's inspiration. But I would never expect Mick Jagger's kid to get on stage and not pout and like he would or pick him. It's like inspiration comes and influence comes from so many different places.
But then you got like Wolfgang is just his own person up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not trying to be his father, and I love his comments when people. Have you ever looked at his comments?
He's a little sensitive.
He is
He's
hilarious. Huh?
He's a little sensitive.
He is, but some of his comebacks are awesome.
Yeah. I don't have. This is just like this whole thing about, having tracks or whatever when you're playing live. I don't have a problem with tracks helping live. I don't have a problem with your parents, your family legacy worked very, very hard to get good at something and plant their flag. Part of the reason they did it was so the family would keep going with it. Right? So I don't got a problem with all the Baldwins acting, all the Kardashians doing whatever they do. I don't have a problem with it. Right? That's fine because I would do the same for my kids if they wanted it. Now, Anthony talked to a professor about going to retail when he was like in junior in high school. I'm like, oh, hell no. You got to get retail out of your brain, dude. You don't want to do that shit. Right? You don't want to do that. Right? But if there's a way that you can help your kids, then I think you should. But I think there's a piece of you don't want them feel entitled. That's for sure. We've seen the kids in history that get crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, shoot, these you've seen tons of famous people's kids go off the rails, man, and it's like, and some of them weren't able to handle, being somebody's kid. And, and somebody just posted that. I think that, I do think that, I saw Lewis's comment right here. Yes. And so somebody mentioned, Evan's 30 now. And yes, Lewis is right. Wow. I think he turned 30 this week, or maybe it was today or yesterday. That is amazing. I mean, really 30 years. I mean, I was only 23 when he was born. I feel like I was much older, And
he won't be compared his whole life. So if you think about it, we'll compare him. Right. Will Jace?
No.
My son won't?
No.
So that only lasted one generation.
He's just got to keep going.
Yeah. So I could tell you this. So Evan's band before, the Dives, I liked them. I saw them a few times in concert. I liked them very much. I thought that they were one of the reasons why I liked them is how not Kiss they were. it'd be really easy for D. Snyder's son, I don't know if he has one, to walk out on stage one day with long blonde hair and take over where his father left off. And be, it wouldn't be, when I say easy, I don't mean that it would necessarily automatically be a hit, but what I mean, it would be easy for him to do. The blueprints are there, but for yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask you a question there, though. All right. Because this is part of what I have a problem with Wolfgang. If Evan was the leader of Classic 78, you wouldn't be happy with that? I would be ecstatic. I would be like, oh my God, he can bring this back if he wants to. If he was the leader of Classic 78, I think we would be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Makes sense.
I don't really like that Wolfgang doesn't want to do anything Van Halen. I wish he would mix it in a little.
He just doesn't want to be compared.
Yeah, but you know what? You're always going to be
do his own thing.
And he's a beast on guitar too, man. That's like
he is, but I can't get into his music. It's too like alt rock. I don't like it.
One of the things that and obviously this isn't a Van Halen, podcast show or anything like that, but sometimes I sit back and I watch him play and I go, man, it's like playing Eddie Van Halen's music, like especially his solos and stuff like that. It's something that you got to work at. It doesn't just, but it's like how much time did he have with his dad playing guitar that it rubbed off like that, where he could just go, oh yeah, no problem. I could do this. And, anyway. All right. So I'll post the interview on Facebook. Go check it out. It's good. It's good. It's not necessary. It's interesting. See if you see what Sonny was talking about. See if when you watch this interview, if you feel like Paul was relaxed and at peace with the fact that he's semi-done. He did mention that he and Gene are still involved with the Pop House project. So we'll have to see where that goes. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. He said that Gene and him text almost every day, basically just to, I guess, see how each other are doing. Yeah. And if that's true, and I mean, Paul's the type of person that if it wasn't true, I feel like he would go, oh, well, Gene's doing his thing now and I'm doing my thing. And we catch up every once in a while.
Wouldn't lie about it.
But to go out of his way and say, we talk almost every day in a text message. Here's the thing. One day, Podcast Rock City will end. I don't know when that is, but Podcast Rock City will end. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop messaging. I couldn't just stop messaging Sonny or Lee. I care. I've been around you guys for 10 years. Sonny and I think Sonny just had his 8-year anniversary on the show. Wow. And this month is July, I think, is 11 years we're doing the show. So I get it. I get what they're saying. All right. Thank you guys for getting involved in that. Let's go ahead and I do have a stuff we grew up with.
Hey. Yay.
The funny thing is that I was sitting today with a brilliant, amazing computer animator and talking about all the things that we could do with the show to change all of our bumpers and our animations and everything. And Karen was there and she said, but you could make stuff we grew up with better, but I don't think anybody wants you to do that.
Don't touch the voice.
So, anyway, so all right. So here's where we're going to go with this, stuff we all grew up with. This is today's.
Purple Rain
in his first motion picture. Before he created the music, he lived every bit of it. Come on, lady, for friendly words. The phone just on the floor. All I heard, I'm gonna let the elevator break us down. Oh no, let's go crazy. Let's get done.
All right, that's cool.
What
Let me
year
go
was
ahead. I think it said 84. All right.
84.
So,
See, I was
all
already
right.
20. Forgot. I didn't grow up with that. I was already 20.
You didn't
when
grow
it
up.
came-
You
Well,
weren't
I
a
was
Purple
already
Rain.
20 years old when it came.
No. I understand, but okay. So still, at 20 years old, you were
I
still
loved it. I went and saw it. of
Okay.
course.
All right. So yes, you still grew up with Prince, right? You know, this is
I mean,
really where we're going.
I don't
Really
know. I
where
was
I'm
already
going.
20, so to me, grow up with is before that.
But
That's just me.
his
That's just the
first
way I
record
think.
came out in the 70s, right? Right, Sonny? You're a huge Prince fan.
Yeah, late 70s.
I didn't
Late
get it
70s.
until till the 80s. Probably
Little Red
till all that stuff.
Corvette
Yeah,
in
Little Red Corvette. What was that,
1999.
83 or 84? What was Little
82,
Red
83.
Corvette?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I heard it.
So I was probably 12 years old, and I remember sitting in the house. My cousins were we were all watching MTV. We were at my grandmother's house, and 1999 came on, or Little Red Corvette, one of the two, and I
So
was
good.
like 12.
Yeah.
And my older cousins were sitting around, and I remember out loud saying, I bet Prince has a lot of sex.
Oh, you were
And
12?
my cousins were like, Joey. And I was like,
Oh,
I
how
don't
you
know.
dare you?
It was really funny. And I'll tell you something else that was really funny. I was in Georgia visiting when Purple Rain came out. It was not on my radar because it was a rated R movie. I had seen the videos, right? And my cousin, we were visiting here, and my cousin, I'll never forget it. Everybody was going to the movie theater that night
Yep.
to see Purple Rain. And apparently they had been going over and over. The only time I'd ever been to the movies as a kid, I was with mom, or dad. Like my dad took me to the drive-in a lot because they had Godzilla movies playing in the drive-in. And, you got to see two movies,
Drive-ins
and
were
that,
awesome.
yeah. But my cousin looked at my mother and said, Aunt Diana, can we take Joey with us?
Oh boy.
This is a really good movie, and I promise there's only a little bit of boobies in it. And when my mom said yes, I remember thinking,
You
I'm
were
gonna
like,
see
happy
boobies.
day.
I just
See
remember being like,
boobies.
I did. Meanwhile, the whole place is packed. I don't know anybody in the theater because I don't live around here. All my cousins' friends are there. And I remember being so inspired by this movie. The music was great. The
Mhm.
acting was great. I loved Morris Day.
Oh,
I
yeah, it was
loved the
awesome.
time. Even
were
though
great.
I knew they were the bad guys, they were still great. And Sonny says
What, with about Morris Day?
about all of it.
Oh, dude, it was part of my first album purchase. I didn't see the movie until a couple of years later. And for those folks that are listening or watching and you live in the Bay Area, Capri Theater, baby. Capri Theater is where I saw it because that movie theater was known for playing movies that were 2 or 3 years old, and you could go see them for $1. So that's what they were doing. So, but yeah, I have Prince has been my number one favorite musical artist since the day I saw the first video. It has never changed because everything that I was hearing, and then all the pieces, whether it was funk or soul or R&B, sometimes he would almost rap. Some of it was rock. It was guitar oriented. Like it had all of it. All the music was there. And every time I kind of dove into a piece of the music that Prince was doing, it would connect me to other artists that I liked. But when it all came down to it, Prince was the guy. And he always will be. I have never felt bad about, felt emotional about somebody passing away that I've never met.
Right.
When he died, dude, I was like gazed for like 3 days.
Oh.
And I've never met the guy. Right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of how deep, I guess, into my makeup that guy is.
such a
musicianship
talented dude.
wise,
Oh,
as a
yeah.
musician,
Extremely talented. He can do everything. He plays
can
like
do-
every instrument, dances, he sings. I mean, come on.
I
What doesn't he do?
I recently purchased, and by recently, it's probably been 6 or 8 months. The Purple Rain tour video that's on iTunes, and Karen and I watched that, and it's like I was emotional watching this because God bless. I know I've said it on the show before. I can't believe I got to go the rest of my life, no matter how long that is, without Prince in
No
this.
more new Prince. Yeah.
I get, I would feel the same way about Bowie. It's just amazing to me. Tom Petty, I wasn't a huge Tom Petty's, but I mean, I remember it. I as far back as I can remember video, excuse me, I remember Tom Petty videos being on, and knowing that these guys are gone. I know there's other artists out there, but these are like, you're like, wow, this is so strange.
Well, think about it like this, in a lot of the times I'll explain Kiss as a great master thesis, right? Like if you want to write a master thesis about turning nothing into something and then the marketing and the brand that it is, you could lose yourself in, history and figure that out. In an era where he's growing up, first of all, black artists aren't getting anything they want. Hell, they couldn't even get on MTV if you remember that, right? And he grew up in Minnesota, so he's kind of working through that. But even the Eagles didn't get to control what they were putting on paper, how they recorded it, how they produced it, how they mixed it. And from album 1,
19
Prince controlled it.
Yeah.
Don Henley didn't get to do that. Glenn Frey didn't get to do that. And they've sold hundreds of millions of records. But he got to do it. So somebody saw something, right? Power to them that they were willing to let him go out there a little bit.
Right.
And, this Purple Rain thing, everybody, talks about as a Prince. He was in his 20s, right? He did that. He didn't do that in his 40s. He did it in his 20s.
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's a perfect album too.
Yeah.
I could drop the needle at the beginning and go all the way to the end,
dude.
and not wish and not want to skip a single song.
So was
Every
1999 though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every song from the minute 1999 got done
Yeah.
to the minute Around the World in a Day came out. Every song that could have possibly made the Purple Rain soundtrack that didn't make it, all those songs are great.
Yeah.
Right? So the stuff that was on the cutting room floor ended up being great.
Very talented.
And one of the crazy things is like, and I've said this on the show before, but like even the Morris Day and the Time, that movie, although Morris Day and the Time was around before that movie really catapulted them out into the front, where people went, oh, this is a real band. This isn't like something on just in this movie. These guys really exist, and like you put their records on there. They're so much fun, in the Apollonia 6. It's all very personal. This movie, is very personal. When you watch it, you get an idea that it means something to Prince, it's just one of those things where it was like the first time I ever watched a movie and realized that not every movie is going to be Superman or Star Wars or Jaws. This was serious. It had a serious message behind it. I was kind of shielded from, not necessarily reality. I obviously had plenty of that in my life when I was a kid, but it was like I was like shielded from seeing I still haven't seen The Godfather. I get picked on about that, but it's one of those things where I'm like, it's just too real for me. But I saw that movie and it just music became. And the other thing that I know, like, we've gone long, and I hope you guys are having a great time, but I just remember this interview with him. He was so big at the time, and somebody was interviewing him, and he was sitting in a chair, and they said, people compare you to Jimi Hendrix, and he shut that shit down in a second. No. And in my personal opinion, and that's probably because I wasn't around for Hendrix, but Prince as a musician smokes just about everybody I've
Yeah, but
ever watched and listened to.
the beauty is that dude will say, I'm better than you, and you ain't Jimi Hendrix either. I ain't Jimi Hendrix, you ain't Jimi Hendrix, but I'm better than you. So the competition wasn't a problem, and he had a problem saying he was good, but he wanted to be compared to his people, not the people that he idolized.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you got, I can say in my lifetime, there haven't been a ton of musicians like that where I could sit down and listen to what they're performing, and I feel moved. I love Lady Gaga. I feel like she puts her heart and her soul into her music. I've never really, my understanding is the majority of it, at least, she writes. I have not gone in to look and see, but when she's performing, she's a wonderful performer. I watched the concert last week. Her voice is great. She's very artistic, and to be honest, that kind of gets a little weird for me. Not in a weird uncomfortable way. Like, it doesn't make me uncomfortable to see it. I just don't get it. Like if she comes out in a meat suit, all made of T-bones, I don't get it. That's weird to me. But I'm definitely no Lady Gaga, and I sure as hell ain't
He's
no
just
Prince.
trying to push buttons with that, just like Kiss did.
Yeah.
There's one other artist that can move me the way Prince does, just because of the subject matter and the way they go about it. But there's not
Backstreet Boys.
No, fuck no.
Yeah.
No. Richie Kotzen.
Richie. I know you love Kotzen.
If you listen to his solo stuff, dude, you can't not like. If you're trying not to like it, then I guess you won't like it. But you're just being an ass. The guy's part soul, part jazz, part blues, part rock. I would say, for every 3 good songs, there's a song that maybe you don't love, but there's like emotion oozing out of all of it. But Prince is that way, right? There's so much different shit, you can't love it all. Not all of it's great. Not all of it hits your ear the same way. All of it's great. You may not appreciate all of it. I don't appreciate all of it.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. Okay. So this was a lot of fun. Ended the show with some Prince. I'll get a text message later on the show. They're going, "Oh, what are we talking about Prince for?" Okay. Anyway,
grew up with.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's stuff you grew up with. Thank you guys. Don't forget, we're about to head over to our Patreon and record another episode, and that's just for the Patreon peeps. So go and check out the Patreon, patreon.com/podcast Rock City. You could join it for free, and in the morning, there'll be a whole bunch of stuff uploaded right to the Patreon for the people that are on there. So we'll see you guys next week. Sonny, do you have anything to add?
Thanks for listening, Chris. You're right. The way outs would have been huge. Remember, way out, way out,
Way out. That's
way
where the
out,
sun
way
is.
out.
That's where the
Awesome.
sun is. Way out.
I don't
No,
know what
no,
that
that's
is.
What? The
The
Flintstones.
Flintstones.
Oh, the
Come on.
Flintstones. Yes,
Way
yes,
out.
yes.
Way out.
Yeah.
Yes, that's pretty funny. Lee, do you have anything to add? We just went to the Flintstones.
No, but I hope I pronounced this right. Turge? Is that how you say your name?
I figured it was Turge.
Turge
Well, I
asked
don't
if I had my Punisher back here, and I do. It's dated
Yes.
1998. Yep, that's my Punisher. I played with my tribute band, and then I played it. I've always played it ever since.
Yes, I did see that. I'm sorry I didn't get to that. Okay, so you know what I'm going to say? We love Kiss and we love Kiss podcasts, most of them anyway, and you're going to hear the commercials for all the ones that we love right after this in 3, 2, 1. Peace.